Thank you for tuning in to Spiritual Debriefing from First Baptist Church, Hiwassee, a podcast about Christian men living a Christian life in a very unchristian world. With your hosts, Daniel Meadows, Derek Fisher, Randy Bryson, Jed Harris, and me, Ray Taggart.
All right, then. When are we going to get started?
Hey, let's get started.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play that.
That's awesome.
I like it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Spiritual Debriefing. I am your host, Daniel Meadows, youth pastor at First Baptist Hiwassee and men's ministry director. With me, as always, is...
I'm Randy. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad you're here.
I also am a member at First Baptist Church, and I am part of the men's group here at the First Baptist Church. And that's about it. It's your turn, Jed. Step up. We can't hear you.
I'll scoot up to the table.
Hey, this table's shorter.
Yeah, it is.
You can reach the microphone
The
better.
microphone's perfect. I'm Jed. I'm a member here at Hiwassee First Baptist. I don't know. I don't talk a whole lot, but I'm in on this group.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you're here too, Jed. I'm Derek.
Hi, Derek.
Hey. Now, I mean, I really enjoy everybody being here. I really do. I mean, we've come together as Christian men and wanted to do. I wanted to do this too and mention it to you guys on the podcast. And at first, we're hesitant, but we want to impact people out there and tell more people about God. That's our goal right now. Off to you.
All right, and then there's me. I'm Ray. Also, I'm the newest member of First Baptist Church here. We just moved here at the beginning of 2022 here. But I guess I could say maybe I helped a little bit, because when I heard you guys wanted to do a podcast, I said, hey, I can help with that. I know how to do the technical side of things. And so that's what I'm here for.
And I was like, great, because I know nothing about it. I talked to that guy. I talked to your buddy Randy that does one too. And he's like, well, you need to buy this and that and this and hook this up to that. And I'm like,
what is this?
Okay. And then Ray goes,
He said, you betcha.
yeah, you betcha. Yeah, and Ray goes, I know how to do all that. Oh, yes. Here you
I
go.
said, excellent. Well, yeah, right afterwards, you guys made it happen. So I'll try to make sure everybody can hear everyone and that there's not too much popping, clicking, and banging going on in the background.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot.
And I'll delete all the dead space while Derek's sitting there thinking.
Awesome. I love that.
That is a lot.
Wow.
How much time we got?
See? What happened about picking on Ray?
Ray, I'm glad you're with us, because if not, this would be a train wreck.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
It would be.
I'd be pushing
Chug-a-lug.
random buttons, and
Yeah.
there would be silence
Yeah,
through the
here
whole
it
thing.
comes, man.
Guys, I forgot to push record again.
Yeah. I forgot to put the Sims card in.
I left it at home.
Mm-hmm.
I still have no clue what you're talking about. No.
Right?
This is all just magic, right?
It's all magic. There's buttons on this.
Yeah. My name's Randy. I work on cars.
What's a button?
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
That's my daughter's response now to everything. Okay.
Okay.
Like,
Like, we're paying attention to you, but we don't care.
I know. Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of people.
Is that why she says that on Wednesday night during the lesson?
I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. She's like, I want to take my horse trailer tonight. I'm like, you need to fix it.
Okay.
Get a license plate. Okay.
You love her.
Yeah, but I
So
don't-
you went out there and fixed it then?
No,
didn't you?
not yet, no.
Oh, whatever.
not yet.
Not yet.
I'm not getting her horse trailer. Look, there's a horse trailer.
There's a horse trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
Attaboy.
then you just threw the word yet at the end of that.
Yeah. Yet.
Not yet. Haven't fixed it yet.
Yet.
Who needs a license plate? Just take it.
Yeah. I don't roll that way.
PC stops.
Why, Derek?
Because everything on all my vehicles, Jed knows this too. All my brakes or lights have to work on my trailer. Has to be a license plate. Everything. Man, I don't want to be stopped by the cops.
I'm sneaking over there and taking a
What else you hiding there, Derek?
I'm not hiding
What are you hiding, buddy?
As being a previous law enforcement officer, everything on there is tip top. You know, that's just, it's like a pet peeve of mine on trailers. The lights, I'm like, all of my lights have to work.
So how do you know they all work?
I go out there and double check them before I leave.
We get out of the truck and we look at our stuff.
Yeah.
How are you going to make sure your brake lights work? Are you pushing on the brake and looking at the back at the same time?
You back up to things so you can see.
Right. Or a pry bar that you put it against the seat to the brake pad.
Don't your emergency flashers?
Emergency flashers, yeah.
Or you just have a wife that loves you and she'll do it for you?
At my new truck, you just got a little button you push, and it does all of it for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, those fancy GMCs.
I
I had to
that.
drive
I
one.
love 'em.
I had to drive one
You
for the
told
last
me.
2 days.
You told me. And you
Did
loved
you
it.
really?
And you want to trade your dually
Why?
in and get it.
We had to deliver cabinets up in Missouri. And so I drove
Did you drive
the other
Mark's or the
Mark's other company truck.
Oh,
Did you tell Mark, I don't want to do that, buddy. I'll drive my own.
He thought about it.
Yeah,
No, you didn't. Because you were like, I
But you know
want to
what? He
drive
wouldn't
it.
let me. You know, when we first started leaving, the shop foreman or, guy has been there forever, he goes, I moved the trailer with my truck first because the company truck wasn't there. So it was all hooked up, loaded it up. And he told him, he goes, well, why don't you just pull it with your truck? And I said, no, because of insurance. So I'm like, all right.
yeah.
But I don't know, that truck is uncomfortable, man.
Your Ford? Yeah. I
No,
agree.
yeah, GMC. You're talking to a guy that just drives nothing but Ford since he's 16.
Yeah.
You want to see something uncomfortable?
Everybody's got their faults.
Put him in my farm truck and let him ride with me.
Is that black one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that black one. It's comfortable. It was comfortable.
It's comfortable.
I like
The only
it.
thing is every light's on the dash.
Oh, yeah, that
And
freaks
it just,
me out.
It just
Yeah,
feels-
I got to agree with him on that one. That one gets me. The
Yeah,
lights
everyone's
on the
like,
dash,
It's
It
a
goes-
farm truck.
It's a farm truck. It
No.
goes everywhere that it's supposed to, and
It's
it's
still a
not
truck.
messing up.
Exactly.
No. I can't have lights on
Now
either.
his white everyday truck is probably different than that.
Yeah.
It's dirty.
Yeah, it's dirty. But it's getting clean this week.
But you don't have every light on.
No.
You baby that truck a little bit more.
Yeah.
But now with every light on, how are you going to know you got a problem?
You should be.
Well, just when it stops? Oh, man, there it goes.
Because he's got a good friend that's a mechanic.
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah. Not only was you a copper, you was a mechanic. Or the only
so-
one that need mechanicking was the Fords.
I know a guy.
Yeah. So every officer's, I think, well, my worst fear getting out of the police department was, what do I do next? What do I do next? Because you fill out applications and you go, what do you know? To be a cop. No. Do you know anything else? Not really.
I know how to chase people.
Yeah, and that was the thing, was I didn't know where I was going to do. And so the second thing I knew how to do was my dad was a mechanic for a very long time, retired from it, and grew up working on cars. And, my dad's style was, here's a book, go figure it out. That's how I learned. So I'm like, well, that's about the only thing I know, because I sent in applications to different things. And, I didn't have a college degree. And since I was a kid, that's all I wanted to do, was to be a police officer. That was it. It's all my entire childhood was. And so in 2015, when I got out, no idea, just kind of no direction, nothing. So I said, well, I think I wanted to be a Ford technician. That's what we drove. That's what we worked on. So I started from the bottom. I go out of being a police officer to changing oil at a dealership. So I did that for about 3 months. But in that time, I talked to the service manager and the service director. And, Judge, you know the story. I've told you this. I went there and it says, what do I need to do to become a technician? What do I need to do? A lot of times we get that attitude where I deserve to do that. You give me that.
You owe me.
Yeah, you owe me. Mm-hmm. So I look at things a little different. I went to them and says, what do I need to do? What school? Where do I need to go? How do I become a Ford technician? And I did the same thing when I was a police officer. I had friends and family that was in it, and like, what do I have to do? Where do I got to go test? Everything like that. So everything through my life has always been, what do I have to do to get to that level? So I did that to him, and the service director goes, don't waste your money on school. We'll train you here. And we'll sign you up for all the Ford classes, do them on your own, and then we'll see what happens after that. Okay. So I was excited. I did that and did all the classes that I could online. And there was one opportunity, I remember this opportunity, was one of the technicians had to leave early, and they needed this car done first thing in the morning. And it's kind of simple. I think it's just front end work. And I'm like, oh, I got this. Maybe this is a test. I don't know. Maybe it's not. So I go back there, work on this car, rebuild the front end, and get it all put together. And I leave for the night, come back the next day, and the car's gone. And I'm like, maybe I did a good job. So I went to the technician and asked him. He goes, well, you left one bolt loose. And I'm like, there was my opportunity. I lost it. I'm like, now what do I do? But it was like a week later, they started a new program, and they says, it was a relatively new dealership too. And they said, we're going to do like an internship program where you'll follow a technician for a week, each technician for a week. And, you have specialty technicians. You have the transmission guys, the diesel guys, drivability techs. And so I followed them around. Oh, it had to have been probably 3 or 4 months, just going to each one every week. And I was pretty much just doing all their easy stuff.
But still better than changing oil.
It was way better. Yeah, because some of the oil change guys that were there too, and they're like, why is he back there? What's going on? Why is he back there? Why aren't we back there? But that only lasted, those few months, and all the technicians says, I think he's good. He's ready to go. So the service manager came out to me and goes, well, there's your 2 bays and sink or swim. That was pretty much his words. That's the dealership world there too, was sink or swim. And I want to say like the first week on my own was an engine rebuilt on a Focus. It was a short block. And Randy, most of you guys know what a short block is. It's pretty much rip everything apart. I think that took me like a week and a half to do. I'm only getting paid like 24 hours or like 32 hours to do this job, but I spent like 80 hours on it. But I didn't care. I had to show that I could do it. And so I did that for quite some time until we moved out here to Arkansas. And I went over to the other 4 dealers here and said, hey, you guys hiring a technician? And everyone said, no, we're not. So one dealership said, we're hiring a service advisor. I said, well, I guess I could give that a try. He goes, have you ever sold anything? I says, well, I used to sell handcuffs to people all the time. And he laughed. He thought that was the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I think you're good. So I tried the service advisor job for a little bit, but it was different. You had to deal with a multitude of different personalities. You had to deal with the customer, the parts department, the technician, everybody in the dealership you had to deal with. You were the go-to guy. Why isn't this fixed? Why isn't this going on? Well, what's going on? I don't know. Let me go ask the technician. Then he's grumpy, so it's like, I have no idea. Check with me tomorrow. Maybe he might be in a better mood, So, but yeah, well, there's a little bit of my life story there. But yeah, that's, I think, get back to why all the lights need to work and why the lights need to be off. Yeah, that's why.
That's a typical Ford man answer.
Right.
Right. Ask one question about the lights working, and I'm going to give you a 30-minute answer.
Well, yeah. I always said too, when I went to go work for Ford, I'm like, man, if you can work on a Ford, you can work on anything.
That's no doubt.
Yeah. Especially now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember one night I was over at Judd's working on an old farm truck, that old Ford. Oh my goodness.
Made you want to convert to a GM?
Yeah, I know.
It did.
Yeah, it did. It did.
He saw the light.
We stayed up so late that night that even my wife called and says, "You guys okay? What are you guys doing?" Like, we're still working on this truck, I promise.
And we never took a break.
No, we didn't.
We didn't.
What was it, like
Well,
1 in the morning?
15 minutes when we sent somebody for gas. That was it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So how hard was the transition from being a cop to the Ford dealership, then moving here?
Very difficult.
Yeah. So
Like, very difficult. I have buddies now that have gotten out of the police department here recently, and they call me and ask me, kind of like the question of, like, how long does it take to go to the private sector? That's what we call it, the private sector.
Right.
The civilian life, right? And for me, it took a long time, probably 2 to 3 years to really just relax. Because as an officer, we're in charge all the time, right? We take command of situations on a daily basis. And now that you go start all over in life, and you're at the bottom, and you're not in charge no more, it's very difficult. I mean, very. Yeah, I mean, it was hard. With my buddies, I just try to encourage them, just really, sometimes we can't be in charge, And I think that even goes back to my Christian walk, because I ain't in charge. God is. And
as much as we try to be,
absolutely.
we gotta know somebody else is there.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah.
I mean, we try so hard in situations and everything, and I think it's actually strengthened my Christian walk because I give it all up to God. And even right now at a job that I'm at, I feel like God has me there for a reason, but sometimes I don't know why. Some days are rough, and I'm like, I don't like this. But I pray to God and be like, why? I don't know why you want me here, but I'm going to do a good job. And then it's amazing because later that day, you're like, okay, I'm good. I feel relaxed. I feel comforted, But, yeah, it's a very hard transition, and if there's officers that are listening now that have been out and into the private sector, they know how. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, you dealt with that too, Randy.
I was about to say, how long were you working at county and the jail?
5 years.
5 years. How long did it take you to?
Actually, it didn't. I mean, the looking over my back and just making sure that everything was good, because once you're inside a facility, you're always watching your brother's back, watching your back, watching everything around you. I still do that, but probably not too intensely like I was. But it took a little bit. I went directly from getting out of the sheriff's office, went straight into school, doing mechanic work, and basically did maybe a half a year of schooling and got kicked over to on-the-job training, basically. And I believe it took me 2 months because my blood pressure being inside the sheriff's office was sky high. And by the time I got transitioned to the...
It's because people like that made it harder for us. The street cops. Street cops amped everyone up.
I don't know what your
when they
problem
brought
was.
to
I was
us.
friends with everybody.
Yeah, see? Yeah, we're all on the same team, Daniel.
No, I mean we were all friends, but they amped up the inmates as they were bringing them into us. And
But it took me a few months to actually get into to my new job, which went into transmissions right after school. And I think that was probably, of course, it was God's will, because that was the only thing that really calmed me down. I went into that job, and I love anything that's puzzling or trying or challenging. So if you want to try something different, go into a side of transmission and try to figure that out.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it just popped in my head, Randy.
Yeah.
I guess one of the other hardest part was when you're out, you're out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'd hardly ever talk to any officers I used to work with.
Yeah.
We were, you know, on the same shift for the last 3 years. You know, all the families knew each other. We hung out all the time. And now when you're out, you're out. Like, I don't get phone calls. I don't talk to anybody. And that was another buddy that I dealt with too, that he said the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, we had each other's back. We were brothers, right? I mean, we'd go to battle together any day.
Yeah.
But when you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I even talk to other officers like just on a daily basis, right? I'm like,
yeah.
I did 10 years in Arizona. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, they don't want to talk. I've got 2 buddies that I worked with at the sheriff's office that I still talk to at least weekly. One's still there, and one's now with the state police. But we still talk at least weekly, and try to meet up once a month. But you know, I mean, the rest of the shift, I don't.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I have no idea what's going on with
high
their
school.
life.
You know, it's like when you're out, man. See ya.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
So I think one of the hardest things, I mean, it wasn't really hard to get back into, but when we moved back, we moved down to Oklahoma, and I went to school down there, and coming back is, I was really wanting to work on cars still, but there was, like you said, everybody, no, you need more experience.
Yeah.
So I went back to what I knew. I think it was glutton for punishment, but I went back to the government work, working for street crews and counties and stuff, and of course it was all ex-cops or militaries anyway, so you're getting right back into the drama of the job. So I basically, again, I'm not going to say my blood pressure was high, but I wasn't happy. So again, I tried to go back to school, and that was more relaxing going back to school. I didn't really care for all the new car electronic stuff, but I think it's funny, when I went back to school, I kind of told them I wasn't going to a dealership. I said, because you at the end of your schooling, you had to do a internship. So I told them, I said, I ain't going to a dealership, so if you want to fail me now, go for it. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I was like, I just couldn't handle the dealership life. I wanted old cars. I said, there's just something about old cars that just really calms me down about things. You give me all these electronics, oh man, I'm going to be back up there with my blood pressure real fast. So that I got placed into a pretty good restoration shop. When I say pretty good, I really love the guys there. You walk into a good Christian atmosphere, brotherly type people. I mean, we could just stop and have conversations about, God, the Bible, anything you want to talk about. And it's not like in today's society, a curse word. You're sitting there talking about God in front of everybody. Oh, you can't do that. But this place here is just awesome. Yeah, we work on Mustangs, and I'm a GM guy, so me and Derek go back and forth on some of that stuff, but not as bad as my boss and myself. We we go back and forth on that, but I do like the Mustangs on a certain level. But it was a God's blessing to get me out of the situation that I was and go put me in a situation with a bunch of godly men, and then come into this with the men's group. Going in this podcast, I mean, I was just telling another guy from the men's group the other day, I was like, man, I've never been in my life just ready to come see my friends at church on the weekends, whatever. Usually I just leave me alone, And I'm like, I really enjoy seeing people. Usually I'm not a people person.
Right.
I'm just like, no. But it's been pretty cool just what directions we're all going into and how we're, like Jed said on a few podcasts ago, it's God put us all here together, and it's been great. Even you, Ray. It's been great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like Ray wasn't here last night. It's like, where's Ray?
Ray.
Yeah, where's Ray?
Exactly. So, yeah, I kind of went through a few of those struggles like you're talking about, Derek. I really wanted to become a cop, a deputy, whatever. But the more I'm not going to talk for you. I've already done that once and didn't like it. But anyway, me personally, the more you got into it, I just really didn't want it anymore. So I think it was really a blessing that I got out of it at the time I did.
That's the one question I get is, would I go back to it? When it comes up in conversation, they're like, would you go back to it? And I'm like, probably not.
I mean, some days I miss it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some
right.
days I miss it.
Right.
You know, you get to see a car go, you know, code 3 down the, you know, lights and sirens down the road. I'm like, I miss that part. You know,
Like
the adrenaline rushes. I miss that.
Yeah.
There's aspects of it that I miss, but
I think,
not enough to justify me going back.
Right.
I think Derek and I had this conversation not too long ago. I said, I would only go back if it was for like cold cases. I just told you I liked puzzles and challenges and stuff like that, and that's just stuff that unfortunately doesn't get solved quickly like everybody else. So that would be something to sit down and challenge a person, and I think that'd probably be the only reason why I would go back is something like that. But I do miss some of the fun times like you're talking about, but not enough to go back.
Right.
And it's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed,
changed big time.
even for the officers themselves, you know, and
Yeah.
just how much scrutiny they're put under now.
Right. I mean, we could spend all night talking about
We
that,
can,
but
because the three of us, you know.
yeah, that'd be.
I did just think of this question for Randy and you, Derek, is I wouldn't say that we're super relaxed, like we've let our guard down, right? Because in law enforcement, you still kind of watch your back.
Yeah, you're always on high alert.
How long did it take you to relax enough that you were comfortable being back out in public? For those that are like leaving law enforcement now that may listen to us.
I don't know if you ever get comfortable.
No, I don't think you ever do. I mean, I still walk into a room, look around, still back to the wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Still carry a gun.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
I don't think you get to.
But are you as like tensed up?
No, I'm not as tensed up.
How long did that take?
Probably years. You know, probably 2 years. Yeah. I mean, because when you, because I've been out since 2015, so I've been out for a while.
Right.
But it's funny because I still revert back to training. You know, so
Exactly.
you know, like one of the scariest things that happened to me just happened last week, right, with my wife. You know, she calls me, so I need to get to the emergency room. You know, she's having chest pains in her heart, and so like I jump in my truck, and like I just like reverted back to training, right? I'm like, okay, flying down the road, doing the proper speed limit.
Trying to do everything as calm as possible.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
You're
And
trying to control your breathing.
Yeah, and I kept her on the phone, you know, almost like dispatch would, you know, I'm going to keep you on the phone, you know, I'll call for an ambulance if you need one.
Yeah.
You know, it's just get her there. I'm still calm, you know, still calm, collective, you know, professional. I mean, almost. I get her there, we get her to the hospital, you know, get her checked in, and they go, everything's good. I'm like, all right. Well, that's good. You know, but we still revert back to training.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. I talk to people about that all the time because in our agency, we trained all the time. I mean, we trained a lot, which was awesome because a lot of departments don't train.
Right.
And that was one of the good benefits of working there was that we trained a lot. I mean, active shooter training. I mean, clearing houses, clearing buildings. I mean, all kinds of different training. We had
Defensive driving. Training,
and we had, you know, every year's advanced officer training for a whole week. You're nothing but training for the whole week. But it's just still part of you. And even certain things, it's just, I'm like, well, what happened? You know, my body just reverted back to training.
Yeah.
But,
Which is good.
I mean, it's awesome.
Because at times, I think another conversation we had was sometimes it's just better to calm down, or you're going to probably end up causing that accident that
Right.
don't really want. So taking a deep breath and trying to take control of the situation as best as you can.
Right.
Like,
It does help in the long run.
It does. No, it does. Yeah. But, you know, back to your question, kind of, I had a discussion with my wife, too. And during that time, because we got married before I was a cop. And then, you know, she still stayed married to me during while I was a cop, which was a very strong woman.
a blessing.
I mean, a blessing. I mean, just awesome, because we've had discussions. And you know what she says now? She goes, now you're the man that I married. When you were a police officer, you weren't the man that I married. And so for me to hear that was, yeah, I wasn't in the right place. You know, now I know that, you know, like what you said, Randy, I know I'm in the right place now. And when she says that, I'm like, yeah, I was a jerk, you know? And we've talked about this all the time. Every officer does. And I even had the discussions even when I was an officer. When do you turn it off and when can you turn it on? Right? You can't.
You can't.
It's very, very hard. When you go home, it's very hard to turn it off.
Yep.
And they tell you all the time, you know, when you get off shift, turn off what happened.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't.
You can't. I mean, that's why a lot of officers get divorced and then they marry other officers. You know, when I first started, this is what we heard: you're not a real cop unless you're married 3 times. I'm like, okay, all right. You know, at first you're like, whatever it takes, I want to be a good cop. You know, but
I guess we
Sign me up. Let's start now.
yeah, I mean, because even after the police academy, so the last day of the police academy, they have like a family night. So, you know, they say bring your wives or husbands or, you know, whoever. And they tell them that, I just want to let you know, in the police department, it's the highest suicide rate, the highest divorce rate, alcohol abuse. You know, so they're like, what did you sign up for?
Yeah.
But it's reality. It really is. And all the stuff that we deal with on a daily basis, and you want to go home and turn it off?
Yep.
You can't. Absolutely no. I mean, we were on a great schedule. It was 4/10s, so 3 days off. But most of us didn't really have 3 days off. You know, we did off-duty work all the time, or, you know, oh, yeah, you know, go make an extra $100. We need an officer there for a few hours. Okay, I'm there.
Yeah.
You know.
If you worked night shift, your first day off was you sleeping.
Yeah, sleep. Yeah, yeah. That's what I always said too. When I was on my own, and I said, "You're not a real cop unless you work graveyard South Side." Right? I told that. I'll tell that to every new officer. You're not a real cop unless you work nights South Side of town. You know, because that was, you know, it's always a rough part of town. And then I was on that shift for about a year, and then for the rest of my career, I worked swing shift. So swing shift for me was awesome. I mean, because I got to sleep in a little bit, and I got to stay up a little bit late. You know, if I had to go to court the next day, I wasn't tired. But swing shift for us was busy all the time. I mean, I remember going and walking into briefings, and the sergeant goes, "No briefing, clear calls." And you get logged into your car, and you see that, and you're just 100 calls holding. And you're like, oh my goodness, you know.
Where do I start?
Yeah, where do I start? Oh, I don't want that one. I'll be stuck on that one for 4 hours. Give me something easy, you know. But yeah, you can't turn it off. I mean, especially when you're on a shift like that where it's just hopping all the time, you know. And swing shift was that too, because you could have your bank robberies. You can have a little bit of nighttime activity, you know. I mean, it was just always hopping. So it was very hard for me to turn it off when I got home. You know,
And we think we can, but it doesn't work out.
no.
Yeah. I always told my wife, "Oh, I got this handled. It's fine. I got it." And I don't think I ever got anything really when it come down to it. But you said something about, having strong women. That could be a whole nother podcast right there. But I'm in the same boat. I put mine through a whole lot, and thank God I got a good woman. So, but yeah, it's difficult while you're there. For me, I had the wool pulled over my eyes. I didn't see myself doing that. I was just going through the motions.
Yep.
And now I look back going, oh my goodness. Now I'm too tired to even think about what I did. But yeah, it's crazy how a place like that can change you that fast and that quick and not even
you
know
hear it all the time. Don't let it change you. Don't let it change you.
Right.
Especially if you're a Christian man going into it. Don't let it change you. And you're like, okay, I won't.
I
and
won't.
I think it was like 2 months, and it was.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest pill for me to swallow was I thought Christians were the biggest hypocrites
Right.
because we were out there arresting deacons and pastors and everybody like that, and you're like, no, and that was a hard pill for me to swallow. That's what that's what I thought. I mean, because my attitude was, I mean, I hate to say it, but I thought I was better than those guys or whoever, but when it was all done and said, and now I can look back, right? The biggest hypocrite was myself.
I was about to say, I think the hardest thing for me out of all of it, the 2 years I did it, the hardest thing for me was to admit that I was not the same man that I was before I went in.
Yeah.
To finally open up my eyes and say, you're right, I have changed. You're right, I have been a jerk to you. That was the hardest thing for me to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's what got me into drinking.
Yeah.
I was drinking a lot. And sometimes my wife would not encourage me to drink, but that's when I opened up
Yeah.
and told her about, oh, this call I did this and this one, I had to pull my rifle out on this one, and whatever the call was, that you hold in and you bottle.
Yeah.
But now when you're drinking, for me, I released it. Mm-hmm. She always told me your wall falls down when you're doing that.
Yeah.
I always had a wall, always.
Yep.
But, now I don't. I mean, I don't have that wall no more. I mean, most of you guys know something's on my mind. I'm going to tell you now. You know what I mean? I don't.
Is there still that one call that keeps you up at night?
No, there's multiple calls. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Mine's not from law enforcement. Mine's from the ambulance and the fire service when I did it for several years. That just it's ingrained.
yeah. And how do you take care of that?
It's hard. I think this.
I think this helps a lot.
The more I've been able to open up with Christian men and discuss like what I've seen with people who know kind of what it's about.
Yeah, because I don't think we were. I always said that we were never designed to see what we saw.
Right. No.
Right.
No man should see.
Most of that stuff that we saw.
Yeah.
We said this before that they're never. Most people are never going to see that. But I think you're right. I think you're right, Daniel, because me, Jed, and Randy, we have these discussions all the time. I tell them war stories, and and the more you talk about them and the more you get them out, I think it just kind of releases that bottleness, right? I mean, to them it's cool because it's a war story,
Right.
But to me, I'm like, I relive it.
Yeah.
And I can remember the smells. I can remember where I was at. I mean, every little detail.
And there's certain details I don't know about you, but as far as like when I worked on the ambulance, there's certain details I leave out. You know what I mean? Because there's certain details that nobody needs to know about of what actually happened.
Most of mine, I pretty much tell you everything.
But I mean, it's like you said. You remember the smells. You remember the sights.
Oh yeah.
And so.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good one for you, Derek, but I haven't sent it to you yet. So I have a quote for you. That
Awesome.
And it's to me, it got me thinking real quick. But as soon as we open this up, that this is what helps us get through it. I thought it'd be pretty good. It says, hold your brother accountable before Satan does. And I said, well, that's pretty deep because there's a lot of things we do that it took us a while to talk about, and we know Satan had a hold of us or we wouldn't have done that.
You're right.
Yep.
Oh, I love
So-
that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. So I hadn't sent that one to you because I seen it the other day, and I said I'm gonna hold that one for you on a good one. But as soon as we open up with that right there, I was like, today's the day.
Yeah, today's the day. That's a good one.
Starting with some inspiration there.
Inspiration.
I love inspiration.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, I even sent Daniel one today.
He did. It did. Yeah.
Feel good about
It
yourself?
was nice. It was nice. Just because it's been a long week with meetings and just between the school and church and just meetings and crazy high stress, and so
Everyday struggles, man.
to see that I was like it.
Yeah.
Hit.
Same
Yeah.
one you sent me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It's good.
Yep. No, I like those inspirations. You know, I like the one I sent last night. I keep going through my head all the time. You know, you build a team so strong that you outlast the enemy.
Yep.
I don't know who quoted that or whoever, but I'm like, that one goes through my mind all the time, and I always think of you guys.
Yeah.
You know, we're building a team so strong that we're going to outlast the enemy.
Yep.
So, you know.
And with you saying that, just anything I quote is probably I don't know who quoted it first either. It's just in the situational timing here. I'll remember something and I'll say it. So don't hold that against me like I'm smart enough to tell you something.
Jed, what about your inspiration?
What you
What's
got?
going on this week?
Oh, today just been baling some hay.
Baling,
Yeah,
hey?
baling hay.
Hey, good weather though.
It was cool today. It was nice.
Did you turn the air conditioner on in the tractor?
It was on. I turned the fan down.
Oh.
It wasn't on high today.
You have air conditioning in your tractor?
Oh, yes.
No,
Well, if you're going to do it for a living, you might as well.
You might as well. I would too.
We didn't have it growing up.
I didn't have it until probably the last 4 years,
What-
probably. Maybe 6.
When the wheels were moving, that's when the air conditioner came on, and it was hot.
I could just picture Jed in his tractor listening to Jason Aldean, just making another round.
Yeah, I can see
Sing it, Jed. Sing it.
Well, to be honest with you, it's playing KLRC.
I don't think he's going to be on
The
that
only
one.
tractor that does have a radio. The other one doesn't have a radio, so it's just silent.
It's just silence. It's him and God in the tractor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably get a lot of time to talk to
You
God.
do.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
I
I
spend
bet.
a lot of time.
You got any time that stands out to you on that you can
That's,
share with
yeah,
us?
that's what I was about to ask. What?
I don't know. I just
Because you got some wisdom over there.
because I'm the older one.
No, it has nothing to do with you being the oldest one here.
But it only goes so far.
Because I'm short. Yeah, I understand.
I didn't.
No,
I didn't do it.
I spend a lot of time in prayer, just good conversation as I'm going in circles around the field. And it can go from anything from today was for this podcast to sit right here.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. I told him, I said, I don't, which you all know, I don't speak a lot. And I said, any words that come out, I want to be words that he approves of and that he wants me to say. And It's kind of,
And I say the same thing to him every time we do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, God, this is your podcast. You direct me on what you want me to say.
yeah.
And I think, you know, you brought up a good point, Jed, because I've been thinking about this too, was, you know, when you say, we pray to God, you know, sometimes we just have a conversation with God.
Yeah.
We just have a conversation.
You just talk.
You just talk.
Just
That's
talk. And you can, I will say a prayer in the morning when I get up, and I might say a prayer when I'm out there, and it might be short. And then I'm like, whoa, hang on, God. I said, oh, amen, but hey, let's sit here and talk for a little bit.
Yeah.
Boy, the trees sure look good over there today. The
Let's-
birds are flying
yeah.
good.
Well, it's like I've said many times,
Just-
is that in my own personal, I'll start the morning with Dear God, right? and then I don't say amen in my personal time with God until I lay down and go to sleep. And I just
Not-
keep it a whole day
That's
conversation.
That's not a
You know,
bad
es-
idea.
especially like when things are getting tough, and I'm like, all right, God, like,
Yeah.
you see what's going on here. I need some help with this, you know. And
What I like is Derek's getting me on some of these podcasts and different things. Sometimes I will start feeling like we was talking the other day. Just we need to start our day off a little different or something, you know. And it's weird how a sermon or something in the Bible will kick out and be like, okay, now I feel a whole lot better about it. I need to hear something like that.
Yeah. That's what I love about Pastor Rogers preaching too. Like every Sunday, I'm like, how did you know?
and he's always like, this is for me.
Right,
This
yeah.
last Sunday, this is probably for me more than you. And I'm sitting there going,
No, it's not.
Was you outside my bedroom window
like-
listening?
I'm like, did Taylor text you? Like, what is this
But I'm a
about?
me too.
Yeah.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think one thing this week that, and probably longer than this week, that's been kind of bugging me is this concept of sometimes we put God in a box. You know what I mean? And so like we'll say, we'll say, God, we want you to do something like, and even now we've said, hey, this is God's podcast, right? And I've always said, any ministry I've been in, this is your ministry. You just bless me to lead it, right? But sometimes I think we put God in this box to where we say it's His, but then we want to control it.
Right. No, you're right.
You know,
That's the hard part.
it
And-
is.
and it goes for our whole life. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got to turn it over to Him and let Him really have it all.
So how do you do that?
I just keep reminding myself multiple times a day. And I don't know. I mean, 10 years ago, I had anger issues. I was kind of a hothead. And I've actually, since Derek's known me, I don't guess he's seen too much of it.
No.
So I've calmed down quite a bit.
You're a gentle soul.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But I don't know.
I can still see it's a battle. I mean, to be very honest with you. But you control it, right? Like
Yeah.
I've never seen you blow up or anything like that, or get like you said in like your past.
Yeah.
No, but just like all of us, we might get really angry, but you can see it on our face that we're angry. But that's the time where, like for me, for instance, that's when I go to God too. I'm like, okay, God, you can see I'm getting to that level right now, and
I walk away from whatever, you know what I mean? Like if I'm sitting there and something has just really irked me, I'll walk away from it and then spend that time in prayer. And some people don't understand why I'm walking away. I'm walking away because I don't want to punch you in the face, like.
what has helped you, Jed? I mean,
Yeah.
what got you to where you're at right now?
What's got me is just reading God's word and just realizing everything is His will. And I mean, I've got choices to make, but I've got to follow and do what's right. And whatever's in the book there that I read, problems come up, I can find answers, and it just
Yeah,
it's God.
It is.
That's all it is. It's God.
yeah. And then sometimes, before we would get mad at things that before we even knew what the problem was,
Yeah.
right? We'd be like, thinking this was going to be broke. You're already getting mad, probably coming out of your tractor, starting to throw things, and then you get back there and you're like, oh, it's not even broke. Oh, it just hit a rock.
Well, today started out kind of that way. I mean, I went and raked, and it started wrapping up around one of the rake wheels, and it giving me fits. So I was in and out of the tractor several times, and got back and swapped the tractor over for the baler, and just a couple things weren't going right, and I was just like, okay, I'm mad. Okay, God, what is it? I need to slow down. What are you trying to tell me? What's the deal here?
Did it start working after that?
Yeah, I did. I had a really good day until
Is that not crazy?
right before I quit to come.
Is that not crazy how that works?
It's amazing how that works.
It is.
It's like, I was pushing my will. So what's
Exactly.
your will? What am I missing here?
What am I? Yeah.
And I'm
Like-
still not sure what I was missing, but I did slow down and ask.
like,
So
here, God.
sometimes that might just be all it is, hey, knucklehead,
Yeah,
it's
like-
my deal, not yours.
Knocking on the box, let me out.
Yeah. But
Well,
to
I
let-
brought that question up about the putting God in a box thing because our church is experiencing growth, right? And I know a lot of churches that when they experience a growth, and even us as individuals when we experience growth, one of the things we do is we say we only want to grow so much, and then we want to stop. Like we don't want to get any bigger than this number. And
not up to us.
that has always bugged me because I'm like, okay, I've never really wanted to serve in a big church, but if that's where God wants me to go and that's where God leads us, then that's where I'm gonna go. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
I don't want to say, all right, God, we'll grow, but once we hit 250, we're done. Like we can't grow anymore. You know.
Well, I'll add to that. I never really wanted to be pushed in the church. I just wanted to be a pew sitter and just be able to just enjoy my time with God right here. But as you grow, you get your godly men right here saying, "Hey, won't you do this with me? Won't you do that?"
Right.
And it's like, fine.
I know I don't want to. No.
What's a podcast?
Yeah.
Bobcat.
Yeah, Bobcat.
And we push each other. I mean, sometimes we don't realize that that's what we do. I mean, just right here around this table for each one of us. Like you encourage me, I try to encourage you, and that's what we've been doing. And it's in a good Christian way. That's how we're encouraging each other.
And sometimes it's things like you've heard before, like if you want it, you got to kind of go after it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many times you've said that to me, and then finally, like one time, it's like clicks. I'm like, wait, I think I've heard that for the last 3 years.
Yeah, see, I'm a big dreamer. Like even Jet says that too. Like maybe sometimes you dream too big, but
Pull him back down.
Right? Yeah, pull me back down. But sometimes, we have to realize that too. There's nothing wrong with having dreams and goals. But we still have to remember that God's in control.
Yeah.
Right? I heard this one on another podcast, but I mean, it hits me. He says, if you're not happy now, you won't be happy when you get to where you wanted to be.
Yep.
You have this big dream and this big goal. If I get to that, I'm going to be happy. You're still not going to be happy. So even right now, in my life right now, I think I'm very happy. I'm very content, but I still like to dream and still set goals for myself.
It's the dreaming and the setting goals where growth comes from, though. Right? I mean, would you agree to that or no?
Yeah, because for me, when I go and set a dream or a goal, there's tribulations through that, and that's when I grow, is during the battle to get there.
Right. Because I mean, I think about working out. Right. I mean, a few of us we work out.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think about it. Your muscles, what happens? They tear apart,
Right.
and that's how they grow.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've had to rethink because one of the things I always wondered, especially as a young Christian, was God, why did you let me go through this? Right? I mean, we've all asked that question. Why?
Always.
And what I've had to remember is, oh wait, my muscles break down to grow. Same thing with my spiritual life is I'm gonna have to face these hard times of being pushed to grow in my spiritual walk even greater.
Yeah. I agree to that. 100%. That's when you grow. I mean, I have nothing else to say, but that's when I grow.
I think that's one of those inspirational things I sent to you. I sent you what you go through is what you grow through. So it is, like you said, trials and tribulations. But think about if it's all easy, do you grow anything? I mean,
That's what I've told the
if
students.
it ain't challenging, how are you going to sit there and say, I accomplished that? I mean, it's hard to say that.
Right. Nothing comes easy. That's good.
Yeah.
That's And if it came easy, then it probably is not going to last for long.
Exactly.
But what you were saying about the growth, what kind of triggered me, that I just thought of is, as you go through those challenges, you almost can think of yourself as like a balloon, right? You go through these challenges and you're going to fill up. The question is, what do you fill yourself with? And if you keep God there, yeah, I know it wasn't a dig at you yet.
Is that a fat
Randy.
joke?
I think it was.
Randy's filling up with chicken nuggets, but
Chicken strips.
chicken strips.
I'm an
Chicken
adult, okay?
strips. You don't go for the dino shaped ones that you get at Sam's.
No.
But it's again, what you fill yourself with. If you keep God centered and you keep turning to God, that's what you're filling yourself with. And I think that's where you truly spiritually grow. Because I'm a new Christian. I mean, been about 4 years now, but still, that's pretty darn new, especially compared to all you guys. And all the challenges I went through before, I came out of them. I made it to the other side of them, but I haven't felt the growth in my character, in my spiritual life, in my relationship with my family, with my wife, as I have since I've come to God. And now when I go through challenges, I'm filling myself with God as opposed to the world. And it has changed my outlook on so many things. So it's again, I don't know how to finish that thought off, I guess, any better than just saying that it is, you got to go through those challenges. You're going to grow. And as long as you just keep God with you and keep turning to him and making sure, okay, what's my way out of here? What is your will in this situation? You'll come out of it better than you were before.
But I think also, too, Derek, that brings us back to our decisions we made as law enforcement. We chose that lifestyle, and that's what we filled ourselves with. So we didn't have room for God.
Right.
We had room for what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'll tell you straight up, I didn't care if I was here or not. It was one of those deals I was living for myself. So when I was here, I wasn't really here. So leaving that lifestyle, Ray, I agree with you, because once you start getting friends, family together, and that's all you're thinking about is God and the relationships you make, I think that does kind of strengthen that backbone up for you. And because I'll tell you, it wasn't very good whenever I was living the lifestyle of the other.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I grew up in church.
Yeah, me too.
I grew up, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesdays, right? I knew the difference between right and wrong.
Yes.
And
that's the bad part about it. But you still choose.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I was very, very selfish.
Yeah.
It was all about me, 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 me.
Yep.
Well, the three of us that went into law enforcement, we wanted to, right? I mean, we chose to. That's what we always wanted to do. And I wanted to do that, but I also did it as a Jonah. That was my Jonah experience, right? Me and Derek have had conversations about that prior. And what I mean, for those of you who don't know and who are listening, is I've been a youth pastor since 2009, except for the 2 years I was in law enforcement. And the reason I left for 2 years was because of a bad experience at the last church I was at. Derek's over there smiling at me, because I had some hurts there, and from people who were close to me and leaders that I was supposed to fall back on, and men who were like, yeah, I've got you, don't worry. And so I was kind of hurt, and I said, you know what, God, I'm done with this. And I ran. And I knew what God wanted me to do. God's always wanted me to be a youth pastor. He called me into it at the age of 16. So I knew for the longest of times that this is what I was supposed to be. It was on church staff as a pastor somewhere. And when that happened, I said, God, I'm done with this. If this is the way it's going to be, I'm done. And I ran, right? God's calling you to Nineveh, and I'm running the other way. and so I went. And I got into law enforcement. That's what I studied in high school or in college. But I knew that was the darkest and furthest place I could go to get away and still stay on the right side of the law. And so that was probably my biggest motivating factor actually to go into it, was because I was done with doing ministry and wanted to run from what God's called me to. And I think that's why we get miserable. That's why that was like of my life, especially my adulthood life. That was the 2 most miserable years of my life was in law enforcement, which was something I loved and something I studied because I ran from what God called me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, I don't know, that's just me.
I think we ought to.
So you were Daniel in the belly of the jail?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think we got to look at this as a different ways too. We don't want to put law enforcement down negatively.
No.
It just didn't work for us.
Yeah, you're right.
I wanted to say this stressfully. We respect law enforcement military.
Absolutely.
My
We
dad's
just-
almost 60 and he's still in law enforcement.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
been doing it since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
We don't want it just coming across we're talking negative about it. It was just the negative times in our life is what we're trying to foresee the challenges that we went through.
Well, and
So-
the biggest thing, though, is it wasn't what God called us to do for the long,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, and that was the thing for me. That wasn't what God called me to do. That's what I wanted to do. I did what God called me to do for a while, and I said it didn't work, and I put them back in that box and went and did what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's the thing. Like, when we left, and we all said it, we got miserable while we were there, essentially, right? That's why we were hiding the pain with alcohol or whatever else.
Right.
Was because we ran from what God called us to do.
Right.
And for some people, God has called them to be in law enforcement.
Oh, absolutely.
And they
Yes.
excel and
Yes.
they share the gospel while doing it. And they're great guys, and I love them. And I mean, like I said, I still got 2 friends I talk to weekly that are in law enforcement to this day that I worked with. You know, and they're some good, godly men. But that's what God's called them to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I knew guys that retired and put 30-something years in.
Yep.
You know, it's awesome. And we always said it was a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me, I think you're right, Daniel, because that's all I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do, right? It's not what God wanted me to do. He might have, you know, God at that time because, you know, here you go, but I couldn't handle it.
It's like that conversation we had. Here's your leash. I'll pull you back when I'm ready.
Yes.
And we overstepped our boundaries.
We did.
And God said, no, come on back.
Right. Right. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't either.
Yeah.
So, but there's some guys and women out there that are, I mean, just awesome officers.
Phenomenal. Yes.
Great.
Yep. I mean, they're awesome. And right now, during these times, they're battling.
We need to support
Big
them out
time.
the best we can.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
So,
And I think I'm going to throw this out here for the next podcast because this has been on my mind and my heart. And I think we need to discuss this is what makes a good Christian leader. Man, you know, what you know, that's what I was thinking of. What makes us a good Christian leader? Because I was just thinking this, and like, you know, like you baling hay, you know, you have a lot of time to think. When I'm sanding wood, I got a lot of time to think because it's very, very boring. Because I don't think that leaders are born. I think leaders are trained. And during law enforcement, that's why I bring this up too, because I was just thinking this. In law enforcement, I had some really, really good sergeants that I would follow through anywhere. And they were great leaders because they were down in the trenches with you and had your back and had that. You know, that's what we thought a good leader was going to be. But I think the next one should be on being a good Christian leader. Go ahead and say it.
okay, then. Of course, I've got a good quote here for you. God doesn't give the hardest battles to the toughest soldier. He creates the toughest soldier through life's hardest battles.
Yep.
So that goes along with what you're saying there.
Yep.
And I think I showed that one to you last night, and you liked it. But you bring it up, I'm gonna bring it to you.
No, yeah. I think that's what we need to discuss on the next
so,
one. You know, because
Because
we all have these struggles through life, and we've had, you know, character builders. We've had a lot of things that we've gone through. And has that helped us become a better leader?
And help us keep being a leader.
Correct.
Growing through that situation. Or situations.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sorry, I just wanted to bring that up there. 'Cause
Well,
I was
no,
like, yeah,
I think that's great,
totally on my mind right now.
especially in today's society, though, because we think leadership is the title, and there's a lot of people I know that don't have the title that are phenomenal leaders.
And I don't like titles.
I know.
Our unofficial official leader.
I don't know why you're looking at me, but
Hey, I got
Official-
a question.
Officially,
Okay.
unofficially.
Hang on, Jed's got a question.
I've got a question.
Go
and
for it.
this is for you three of law enforcement.
Oh, no. Is this like a buzzer?
no. I'm asking for a friend.
That's exactly what that was.
Well, I've just been sitting here thinking, and every job that you can pick is going to have problems and this and that. Okay, so my question is if you all were working for a department, a jail, whatever, all your fellow officers, leaders, all good Christian, would that make a difference in the way that you handled things and the way that you accepted dealing with stuff?
Well, I remember this one particular leader. He was a supervisor. And we see this all the time, how some great leaders fall. We had a good Christian man there, but he fell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and I don't know if it's the job or, you know, it's just hard to put something on there, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because I've seen those good Christian leaders fall.
I think it's just the belly of the beast, honestly. You can have the good Christian leaders. You can have the good moral, upstanding supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, kind of like you said, Derek, I've watched them go down.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a chief, a fire chief, a good Christian man, deacon in the church, had all the leadership titles that he should have had, and still fell to the sin of adultery. So I don't think that if it would have been a shift full of Christians, because especially in the South, everyone claims to be a Christian anyways. I don't know if I would have still been okay. I think I still would have probably, because again, whether it's the fact that you're surrounded by good Christians while doing it or not, if it's not what God's called you to do, you're not gonna do it successfully.
That's kind of what I was going for there, Daniel.
Well, and I think you got to remember too, if you again reading the Bible, you probably could count on one hand how many Christian leaders in the Bible didn't fall at one point. They all failed or were failures from at the beginning.
The Pharisees and Sadducees.
Yeah, well, yeah, they don't even
good Christian leaders.
Yeah, right. But it shows that's what God works with, and what we got to remember, even if you are a leader, if you're someone out there who maybe is going through that and struggling through it, I think what proves you as a good leader is how you get back up. You can fall, you're gonna fall, you're gonna fail. You can't be a leader and win every time. It's just not gonna happen. But it's those ones who can realize, make the change that needs to be made, and then get back up and get back in the saddle again. Those are why the leaders in the Bible are the ones in the Bible. It's because that's what they did.
Okay, Randy, I see you got something on your mind.
I had quite the opposite situation. On my shift, I had I don't know if he was a youth pastor or going for full-out preacher. But the lingo you learn, the new vocabulary you learn inside facilities such as that, I would come by and he didn't have to say a word, but I had the conviction right there. I'd say it, and I'd do it, whatever. And I'd look at him, and he would just kind of shake his head, just kind of holding me accountable. he wouldn't tell me anything negative. He'd just look at me and said, I came from the military. I know how it is. He said, but once you keep God in your heart, those words won't be there. Those things you do, you won't want to do. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I'm just like, I'm convicted. I get it, whatever. But, move on. And I've never seen a person, like you guys keep talking, somebody had fallen or whatever. I've never seen a person succeed in that. And I think till this day, I hope we're still friends, but I haven't seen him forever. But I still think he's a good Christian man, still staying in church. He left the sheriff's office, and last I heard, he was still doing his youth pastoring or preaching, whatever he was. And I will tell you, the conviction is there, but you don't realize it until way after the fact. But I had good people in my life through that jail, and I took advantage of that. I'll tell you straight up like that. But that's the hardest thing right there is the conviction. Now you look back thinking, he set such a great example and didn't fall, as far as we all see, but didn't fall and set the great example that we as Christians should have done instead of gave in to the lifestyle. So I appreciate that feller quite a bit now, looking back. So to answer your question, they're there. It's just how strong you really want to be about it. And I got weak fast, and he was still strong through the whole thing. And yes,
I've got to say that I asked a question with really no answer.
yeah,
But it got you all thinking.
Yeah.
But it's like my other occupation, I'm an auctioneer. So,
prove it.
no.
We'll get you one though. We'll get you.
He doesn't have anything to auction off. I forgot to bring the cookies tonight.
Yeah, he forgot the cookies. But like a good buddy of mine, he's a contract auctioneer, which I've done a little contract auctioneering, which you just work for somebody else. The big car sales or whatever, you just walk in.
So you sold yourself?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I don't sell myself. But I've got a lot of friends out there, and I've got one friend that I just know we haven't sit down and talked, but I know that he's a saved man, and I just, by the way he acts and the way we have conversations. But he got fired the other day from a job, and big auction, and they probably run 10, 15 auctioneers, but he didn't fit the group. He didn't go to the lake. He don't go out and drink. He didn't go to strip clubs. He don't hang out with the rest of them. And that's just it's kind of a bad deal. Sometimes your work environment and who's in your environment and who's leading you, sometimes that's God telling you that you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be a God thing.
It's a God thing.
If he doesn't want you there, he's going to let you know.
He's going to let you know.
And that choice you have to make, either stay or go.
But it's in every occupation, anything
It
that
is.
we choose, because it's us choosing. It's not us following
Right.
God's
Right.
direction.
Yep. Oh, you're right. No, I have more to say, but I just can't get it all out. I think we're good. I think
Trying to think, so.
there's a little bit of our backgrounds.
Yeah, that
You
is, that's, yeah.
That's what we kind of wanted to do tonight, was just get to know us a little bit better.
Who we are.
Who we are. Yeah, where we come from.
I'm Randy.
Hi, Randy.
So,
Yeah,
well,
I think we're good.
I think so. I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Jed, do you mind closing us in prayer tonight?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this night that you've given us here to sit at this table with this group of men, and hopefully all the words that have come out of our mouths is from you to glorify you. Father, just pray for this church that we are growing, and lead us and guide us to keep everything in the right track. Father, just be with those who don't know you, that they'll come to know you before it's too late, and use us in any way that you want us to be to glorify you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to Spiritual Debriefing, a podcast supported by First Baptist Church Hiwassee. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so you can be notified when we post new episodes, as well as check out our past episodes. We'll be posting new podcasts every other Thursday. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you have questions you'd like us to answer, comments, or feedback on the podcast, please contact us through our social media or email us at dmeadows@fbchiwassee.com. Thank you, and we hope God blesses your day.